G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, October 9th, 2023. Hopefully you can all hear me and see me okay. If you can't, as I always ask, just let me know. My microphone has a real habit of playing up. But great to be here. As always, what a big weekend in boxing. What did you all think about the Warrington Wood fight? What a fight it was. The controversy. It was pretty crazy. Now, the other thing I don't know how well tracking is with the daylight savings. Now, here in Victoria, it is daylight savings, of course. So apologies to our Queensland viewers if you can't, or if you've forgotten that I'm actually on, because I think it might be 6 o'clock up there. And he's in the broadcast. How are you, mate? Yep. Hello, fans. Welcome, Tara and chat. Yep. Tara will be watching at the moment on the treadmill. She likes to get on there and watch that. So, but yeah, the big fight on the weekend, guys. I'm just going to bring up what was it there? So it was Josh Warrington. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. It was a 7th round stoppage of Lee Wood with the 7th round stoppage of Josh Warrington. Now, if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out on YouTube. It was on DAZN at all hours yesterday morning, but there's Asbot in the chat. How are you there, mate? Thanks for tuning in. And again, apologies to our Queensland viewers who don't realise that they're in the past or future, whatever you want to call it. Kyle Champion, how are you, mate? Good evening to you as well. So, yeah, that's the first thing I want to talk about tonight, guys. What did you think about the fight? I've had so many messages and everything about what did you think? Was it stopped too early? Was it stopped too late? Well, it wasn't stopped too late, of course, because it happened between rounds. There's Mark Wynn. How are you, Mark? Welcome to the show. Mitch Cook. Evening, guys. What a bloody fight Wood Warrington was. My jaw was on the floor. It was an unbelievable fight. It really was. And I'll say it again. Make sure you check it out because I thought Warrington had the better of the fight up until that point. Wood, he's never in a bad fight, this guy, is he? He's always in really good fights, win or lose. He's always in great fights. And so it was a 7th round stoppage. So I'll paint the picture for you if you're not familiar with it or you didn't see it or whatever, or you haven't heard about it. I'm sure if you're a boxing fan, you've seen or whatever about it. But Warrington well ahead, I would have thought. I'm just checking the scorecards at the moment. So he was in front 58, 56, 59, 55, and 59, 55. Okay, so that makes it... yeah, that's good, that one. So if you didn't see it again, so I think he's clipped him with a little, forgive me if I'm incorrect here, I think he clipped him with a little sneaky little right hook. I'm talking 3-4 seconds left in the round. It's followed through, I think, with another left hand, and then it was just boom, 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 and lights out. Now, should he have been stopped? Look, this is almost another Chavez-Taylor situation. I understand it's not as big a fight, but if you look at it, this is, again, what happened. He gets up. It looks out on his feet. The bell rings. So as he's hit and he's on the floor, the bell rings. So he gets up. He walks to his corner. The referee's counting. The round's over. So technically the referee could have finished his count and said, that's it. But controversially, he stops the fight. Now, is this another instance of Warrington not responding to the referee's requests or his questions, whatever it is? He turned his back on him. The cornerman jumped on the ring and he gets no response, so he waves it off. So technically, the referee's in the right, but also on the other hand, the round's over. All he's got to do, he's got a whole minute to recover. So look, I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys think. The other thing is too, before I get your comments here, it's fight week, of course. Tim Tszyu, Brian Mendoza. What a massive week for Australian boxing it's going to be. But I'll go through a couple of comments there and we'll circle back. So Big J, how are you, mate? Yes, it is fight week. Wood was excellent. Geez, he's got some ticker, hasn't he? What a massive heart this guy's got, because he was gone. Was it the 3rd round, I think it was, where he was under a barrage of punches. And Warrington, I will say, fought very, very, very well. And really unlucky. Although, having said that, there were 5 rounds to go. That's why they make it a 12-round championship fight. And that's why champions hang in there and do what they do. And that's why Chavez beat Taylor and, you know, Harding beat Andrees and all these types of fights. This is what happened. So, what else have we got there? Harper versus Abricus was a snoozer. I didn't watch that one, mate. Heard on the rumour mill is that the Jai McAllister may make an appearance. but I doubt he's got the gumpton. Well, I'm not sure whether he watches this show, Big J. You never know. I know he follows us on Instagram. So, Jai McAllister, if you are watching, I know you'll be on the Gold Coast this weekend. Big J, I'm not sure whether you'll be there. I'll be up there. Can't wait. So if I do see Jai, I'll let him know that you called him out there, Big J. But I'm sure he's only got good things to say about you. Cole says, no, Lynden, he was out. He didn't know where he was. So that's the thing, isn't it, Cole? Because this is the controversial thing. The round is over. So technically, the referee could have said, yeah, look, he's not in a good way, but he has got a whole minute to recover. Get the treatment from the corner, whatever, to get his faculties back. I mean, it's a really hard one. In my opinion, if you go to the corner and you don't respond to the referee in any way, then the referee has every right to stop it. So I'm going to side with you, Kyle. I think that the referee did the right thing by stopping the fight. His corner, having said that, probably should have told him, Josh, turn around, answer the referee's questions. Because in effect, the referee, even though the round is over, the fighter didn't respond to him. So he has got to go by the rules and regulations. And if the fighter doesn't respond to the referee, then it is over. So I'm sure there'll be some of you out there that disagree, but it was a real tricky one. Hence we go back to, again, Chavez Taylor, as I said, back in the day where the red light's flashing behind Taylor, which means Richard Steele would have known the fight only had under 10 seconds to go, and Chavez wouldn't have had a chance to get to him by the time the bell rang. But technically, Meldrick Taylor didn't answer his questions. He was looking at the corner. It's one of those things. It's a real anomaly, and yeah. But I'm with you, Kyle. Look, I think he was, I'm not going to say he was out because he was on his feet, but that was a bad knockdown, and the referee did what he had to do. And the corner should have been saying, turn around, Josh, and let him look you in the eye, and then whatever happens, happens. But, yeah, real controversial one. It really was. Batman says, Team Batman Boxing, that is, Warrington was giving him a beating. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Well, as I said, mate, he was up, was that 5 rounds to 1 on 2 and 4 rounds to 2 on the other. Woody's like a real-life Rocky, this and the Conlon fight. Yeah, well, that's another one. Just pulled it out of the fight, didn't he? But that being said, it won't work against Joe Cordina, who was very sharp, hits much harder than Warrington and Wood. Yeah, I do agree, Batman. Sometimes the bravest fighters, yes, they'll get out of jail here and there, which is what Wood's done a couple of times now. But when you come up against the absolute cream of the division, yeah, they're not letting you off the hook. And if that was in someone against, say, an Inoue or someone like that, you're not having a chance to come back and do that to Inoue. Inoue's taking you out. So, yeah, let's hope he learns a little bit from Batman. Look, I must admit, I don't like fighters. I mean, I love fighters like Wood, who just give everything they have, and you want to pay your money to see them, but I don't like it that they have to take 3 punches to land one. I don't like it, because obviously after their career's over, they have all sorts of problems. So let's hope that he moves. So maybe just leave. You're watching, mate. Just move your head a little bit that way and that way occasionally. You don't have to block the punch with your chin, which he always tends to do. So, and he just puts that chin up in the air, and he's quite content to take the punches. And anyway, I'm sure hopefully his corner sort that out, because to have longevity in the sport, you cannot try and be Arturo Gatti every single fight. It just doesn't work out the way, especially against the elite guys in that division, by the way. And there's no one bigger than Inoue, though. Sorry, he's super bantam, wasn't he? But he's going to go up to featherweight. Or is he featherweight now? Anyway, but either way, Lee Wood, you need to tighten up a bit, mate. But a gutsy effort, and just full of admiration for Lee Wood. Andy, congratulations to Wood. Bad luck, Josh. Josh was running away with it before Lee put the brakes on him. Yeah. He just, as I said, mate, he just happens to do that, doesn't he? He just has his habit of hanging in, and then that's all it takes is to land one. Brave from Josh Warrington too, I will say. He showed a lot of heart to get up, but I would have thought someone that had 34 or 35 fights, whatever it was, that have the experience to know that you've got to at least acknowledge a referee. But I'm sure that'll be debated. I'm sure there'll be a rematch. Yeah, everyone has their own opinions. Dundee Luke, how are you, mate? G'day, Lynden. Got DAZN on for the Opataya fight, then realised it was on KO for nothing. Yes. Glad I did, though, because that Wood fight was unreal. Let's go, Timmy, yeah. Yeah, and I must admit, Luke, I have got DAZN back on, and I did the same thing as you. I got it on for Jai. I think I ended up buying it for the year because it ended up being pretty cheap. It ended up being, I think, $75 for the year or something, which is only, $6 something per month. So, but I'm with you, mate. Look, I will admit again, a bit like Jai's fight last week, I didn't watch it live. I watched the replay a little bit later. This whole Sunday morning, getting up at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning stuff, I don't sort of go for that. So, yeah, I watched it a bit later on, but yeah, what a fight. And yeah, DAZN, look, they're starting to pick it up a little bit. I'm happy to pay the $6 a month for what I'm paying now to get even one fight a month. I'm happy with that. But when they were looking at, was it 15, 20, 25, I think they pay in the States. It's a lot of money to pay for not a lot of content. But anyway, but you are right, mate. It was on KO and Fox Sports live for free last weekend. And thanks for joining in, Luke. I'm not sure we've seen you for a while. Mitch, very pumped for the event on Sunday. This is the Zoo event, of course. We'd love to hear your full card predictions, some cracking matchups, and some interesting ones. Yes, we will go through the whole card, I reckon, Mitch, and we'll get a little bit of feedback. Obviously, I'll give you my tips, and you can give me your feedback as well. Kyle says, watched the Tony Harrison interview the other day. I didn't see that one, Kyle. I'll have to check it out. Great insight. Tony was preparing for a power boxer, but didn't expect Tim to be that fast, incredibly reactively fast. Yeah, I didn't see that, Kyle, but as I said, I'll check that out. I think this is the thing a lot of times with Aussie fighters at the elite level. They just, look, I know it's changing, and we're going full circle at the moment, or 180 degrees, whatever you want to call it. But in the past, Australian boxers, like it or not, haven't had the respect that we've deserved overseas. Now, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. A lot of the Aussies were just doing it in Australia. Then they went overseas. And I think Tony Harrison put Tim Tszyu into that basket. Now, you would have thought he would have been maybe a little bit wary after what Horn did to Pacquiao and what Kambosos did to Lopez and countless others. But I just think he just thought Tim was he was Costa's son, a little bit of a hype job. I go down there, get an easy payday, get another shot at Charlo, and as we've seen there, he was battered from the first bell. So, but this is what it's going to take. I don't think we're going to have that same problem in the future because I think a lot of overseas fighters are starting to rate Australian boxers a lot higher, and I'm not sure we'll be able to do the sneak attack going forward. But I'm with you there, mate. I'm going to check that out, that Tony Harris interview. See if I can find it on YouTube. Actually, speaking of YouTube, I know we're getting a little bit off topic. I just by chance, I was watching YouTube over the weekend, and a Danny Green documentary came up. Now, I've never seen it. Now, I've been following boxing since I've been 10 years old, and I know Danny really well. I've never seen the documentary, and I feel like a bit of an idiot because I think a lot of you guys would have seen it. It was The Fight Game. I'm going to put it in the link down here, and if you haven't seen it, check it out. It is a really, really good documentary. It really is. Actually, I'll go back. Sorry, mate. I'll just get that off there. I'll just put it in the link there now, guys. So check it out if you have a bit of time. It goes for about an hour and a half, but very, very informative, well done documentary. And as I said, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen it out there. I've never seen it, and it was a really, really, really good behind the scenes look at Danny Green from when he lost to Bayer right up until what fight was it? I think it was when he might have been beaten Stipe Drews, I think it was. But, sorry, it was just after he parted ways with Jeff Fennick. So, and before he took on Ismail Salas, who, of course, is in Australia at the moment with Brian Mendoza. What do we got there? I'll go back. I've missed a couple of comments there. Sorry, guys. Got a few comments coming there. Big J. This is on the Warrington and Wood fight. Warrington could have had the minute off similar to Ali, then Clay versus Henry Cooper. Knowing when Cooper dropped Ali badly, it could have been a different fight. Could have been. Yeah, what happened in that one? Yeah, because he got dropped by the left hook right on the bell, didn't he? And I'm not sure whether the referee even counted. I can't remember. I know he got dropped with a big hook. He got straight back up, walked back to his corner. And I can't remember. You'll have to fill me in there, Big J. I just remember him getting hit with that big hook and getting straight up and walking to his corner. I don't think he knew where he was, to be honest. I think his head was spinning at the time. I think, was that the glove? Wasn't the liniment. That was a Liston fight. I think it was the glove. Had to replace the glove. And he got away with it, didn't he? Because he was gone. I've never actually seen Muhammad Ali like that, to be honest. I know, again, we're getting off topic here, but I know he's been dropped a couple of times. Fraser put him down, and obviously this one here, I can't remember, there was probably others where he looked rock, but that was the first time ever I've ever seen Muhammad Ali actually like visibly rocked and shaken. He got the broken jaw against Norton. As I said, he got dropped against Fraser, but got back up and didn't really look out of it. That was the one fight where he was gone. So yeah, pretty similar there. Big J, Batman. True, he's all heart, but you can't consistently gamble on your toughness, as we know. Yep, 100% there, mate. Cordona stopping him is extremely likely, in my opinion. Yeah, he's always got that. I won't say a puncher's chance, because I mean he can punch, of course, but he's more likely to wear you down. Cordina's a very, very good fighter, so I suppose we'll see. He's at the next fight, Batman. I'm not quite sure if it is. It'll be another great fight, but I'm with you. I think Cordina wins, but will be a great fight. Asbot, watch the Opetaia fight late in the piece. He's a bad man. Yeah, he had a bad attitude, didn't he? I actually spoke to Mick Francis, his promoter, the other day. They just got back from England, so he was a little bit jet lagged. But yeah, on top of the world at the moment. Some big fights being planned for Jai. I know they'd love to get probably back to Australia, but I think the odds are they'll probably fight in England and probably build up the Billum Smith fight. Plenty of other fighters out there he could fight. But yeah, so be interesting to see what happens with Jai next. He's got the world as his oyster. And again, I said to Mick, just really glad for Jai and the team that they've now been recognised, and it's really funny to say that he's a world champion. It's just starting to get recognised. The English fan base is first, and by extension, the American fan base. So I've just got no doubt I think he's going to be a superstar, Jai Opetaia, not just in Australia. I think he's going to be probably bigger, probably a bit like George Kambosos. It's going to be bigger overseas than what he is here. And I know that's a little bit of a shame, but a little bit different down here. Boxing's not a mainstream sport in Australia. Yes, we've got the superstars like Tim Tszyu and George Kambosos to some extent. I don't think he was, even though he won all those belts or beat Lopez, of course, not as big as Tim Tszyu. So just sometimes a fighter comes along that sweeps up the whole nation. But apart from that, we don't really have that. And that's a real shame because, of course, we've got Jason Maloney, world champion as well. And for the females, Ebony Bridges. I don't blame Ebony Bridges for going over to England, to be honest, because she's a superstar over here. But in Australia, no one knows who she is. So it's a little bit different down here. But I don't think it'll matter for Jai, though, because he's going to be a superstar overseas and earn plenty of coin. Millions, I would think, being a cruiserweight. And who knows if he goes up to heavyweight. Andy says Josh was in worse condition than AJ, so was warranted, in my opinion. Yeah, no, good point there, Andy. I agree. Team Batman Boxing says, watching back Tszyu media workout from the other day, he looked unbelievable. The speed and technique was ridiculously sharp. You watch back his pad work about 5 times. Mendoza is in big trouble. Yeah, look. The thing with Tim at the moment is, I know he's itching to get his hands on Mendoza because this is probably his final step to being universally recognised as the man at 154. Now, I know if Charlo comes back, he will be 154, but I'm still to be convinced he comes back for anyone apart from Crawford. I don't think he comes back to fight Tim. I don't think he wants to give Tim the satisfaction of fighting him. I really don't. There's just some beef there, and Charlo's always had a massive problem with Tim. He just gets under his skin, I think. So I think the only way Charlo comes back is to 154 is for Crawford, or maybe Spence if he beats Crawford, which is unlikely, of course. But I see Tim seeing this as his come out or breakout fight. I know he's had the Ocampo fight and the Harrison fight, but this time it's for a real world title. He's got a very, very credible opponent, and I think you're going to see a very clinical and methodical Tim Tszyu take Mendoza apart. I really do. I don't think it's an early stoppage. It might not be a stoppage at all, but I just got the impression, or get the impression, that Tim will just slice and dice Mendoza. He's not fast. I know he's a big puncher, and I know Tim can be hit sometimes, especially early, but I think he has got a pretty good chin. And I think apart from the punch, I just can't see. I mean, you've got guys like Ramos Jr. beat Mendoza. Now, Ramos Jr. is going to be an okay fighter, but he's no Tim Tszyu. I just think Tim just slices him up over 7, 8, 9 rounds and maybe stops him in the 10th round. That's what I'm probably thinking. Maybe the referee stops it. Maybe his corner stops it. I don't know. And I think he'll give a really good account of himself, Mendoza. I think he'll give the best version of himself. Of course, he's got Ismail Salas in the corner. We all know him very, very well. former Danny Green trainer amongst many others. So he's going to come prepared. And I think I did read something today from Danny Green, speaking of Danny again, that he was asked about the Salas factor, and he said, look, one thing that's going to be a 100%, what is going to happen 100% is that Mendoza will turn up in great physical condition, great mental condition, a great game plan, and he's going to give Tim Tszyu all he can handle. So whether that's enough, I don't think so. But I think it's going to be a great event. Can't wait. And as I said to someone before, we'll go through the whole event, and just to see break it down and see who we think's going to win, because there's some ripper fights on the card. I can't wait. The Akuso fight. Okay, I've got to say, Big J, hand on heart, I'll admit I didn't watch the fight. I was on Stan. I don't have Stan. I didn't say it, mate. And I must admit, I didn't even think to look at the highlights. So maybe I'll do like that. What do you guys think? I did see that it was it a majority decision. Yeah, look, and another thing on that, Big J, I know it's a little bit pig-headedness or stubbornness or whatever you want to call it. I don't watch the rugby cards, mate. I know Kuso's the main event, but just out of principle, so I'm not watching that card. I didn't want to watch all the rugby fights on it. I just don't do it. So I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'll check it out. But from all accounts, looked good. He had a shocking preparation. Of course, Lincoln Hudson, and all the best to Lincoln out there. He's been his lifelong trainer, and had a heart attack or multiple heart attacks a few weeks back while he was in Melbourne for a fight night. I think he's still in hospital. He had the bypass, I think it was. So all the very best to Lincoln, but he wasn't in the corner. Didn't make weight. Apparently didn't spar for 5 or 6 weeks before the fight because he had a cracked jaw. So full credit to Paulo Akuso. I know a lot of people saying he should have pulled out, but credit for him for taking the fight. I think and I think he was world ranked, his opponent, wasn't he? So yeah, good job by Paulo Akuso. But as I said, mate, I didn't watch it, unfortunately. But bigger things going on for Paulo Akuso, because you talk about future superstars. This guy is one. I'm still trying to get my head around the whole No Limit thing. I know No Limit, they've got the hand or the fingers in a lot of pies, and all the fighters want all the attention and the recognition and the big fights. I get that. But Paulo Akuso, I just would have thought he would have been, if they had a whiteboard saying, right, okay, well, he's off. He's obviously the superstar of the stable, but he's going to be off overseas fighting. Who are we going to get to headline our pay-per-view cards and really get behind for Australian boxing? I know Nikita's going to be the next pay-per-view for Dylan Biggs, and that's great. But I'm talking about others coming through. I know we've got Sam Goodman. Is he a pay-per-view attraction? Liam Wilson, is he a pay-per-view attraction? Paulo Akuso, I think, has got everything it takes to be a pay-per-view attraction going forward. So something has got to have happened there, I think, between No Limit and obviously Paulo Akuso. But I'm still to be convinced it was the right decision. His team knows better than what I do, but not sure why he would leave the biggest promoter in Australia for a streaming service. Anyway, I'm sure there's big reasons on that one. Batman, as I've said, a very fast improving fighter. Who was always very talented to begin with. Yeah, super talented guy, Batman. I didn't really see a lot of him in the amateurs, just a little bit on YouTube and a little bit like that. But from all accounts, he was always made for the pros. And when he turned pro, look, he certainly wasn't a superstar to start, Batman. I said a lot of his early fights. I promoted one of his early fights. I can't remember which one it was. Let's have a look as we're going here. I'm going to check out which fight it was. It was before he went to No Limit. So it was, where was it? It was, there it was, September 2018. So it was his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about his 12th fight that I promoted. So, and look, super talented. You could see he had all the tools, but it wasn't until he took the next step and went to No Limit, got on pay-per-view, and the opponent started to improve. That's when we started to see Tim Tszyu at his best. And he's definitely one of these fighters that needs a quality opponent, probably a little bit like George Kambosos. Needs a very, very good opponent in front of him to show what he has. And you would have seen that George Kambosos struggled against Maxi Hughes. Won't get into that one because everyone's got their own opinions. But look what he did against Teofimo Lopez and what he might do against Lomachenko. Some really strong rumours out there about that fight. I can't say it. I'd love to. But there has been some rumours about where that fight's going to be and when. So I'll break it as soon as I'm able to, but I can't say anything at the moment, even though I'd love to. But you see now that Tim is now just starting to get better and better with each fight because the quality of opponents is improving each fight. And that's why I've got no doubt when he comes up against the best in the division, I know he's fought a few of them already, that you'll see just Tim just continue to improve. So, but yeah, he got knocked down early in his career by Wade Ryan. Joel Camilleri gave him all sorts of troubles. Dwight Ritchie gave him, the late great Dwight Ritchie, rest in peace, he gave him all sorts of troubles as well. Jack Brubaker, not so much. Jeff Horn, definitely not so much. But yeah, look, the Batman, he's just a generational talent, is Tim Tszyu. I think I just got off track there a little bit, sorry. Asbot says, good on Harrison for giving respect. Tim's timing, distance, and setup IQ is off the charts. Can't wait for Sunday. Yeah, certainly is, mate. It's as I said, I just think you're going to see the best version of Tim on Sunday. He looks in great condition. You can always tell a fighter's condition by the glow of their body, like their face. You can see he's well coloured, all face and body. Watched him shadow box in the ocean yesterday, and was it this morning, whatever it was. But you can just tell by the glow the body gives. He looks healthy. He looks strong. There's no he's not cutting weight too hard. You can see that because by now you can see the fighters tend to, their faces get sucked in, but he looks really healthy, fit, strong, ready to go. And unfortunately for Brian Mendoza, I think it spells a lot of trouble for Brian. And as I said, I'm sure he'll give a good account of himself. I just don't think he's going to be at the level of Tim Tszyu, but he's always got that left hook or right uppercut, hasn't he? Jai McAllister, here he is. Enjoy the show, Lynden. Keep up the great work. Thanks for joining in, mate. I'm not sure whether you and Big J have exchanged pleasantries in the chat there. I'll get down to it, mate. But love what you do. I follow you on Instagram and YouTube, and we need guys like you out there that follow these fighters around and interview them and put it out there for the rest of us. And mate, you do a great job. So all the very best to you, and I might run into you and say good day at the fights on Sunday. But yeah, we need guys like you out there that put the hand in the pocket, travel all over Australia, sometimes the world, to bring all the interviews and behind the scenes stuff that you see on YouTube and on Instagram and TikTok and everything else. So thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate it. Kyle Champion. Hey, old mate, I watched Rebecca Hawker versus Carice Brown. Brown dropped her in the first round. Hawker eventually got the knockout, but for a minute I thought you were taking the piss talking her up. Yeah, that was her last fight, wasn't it? I'm not sure what's going on with Rebecca Hawker, or Beck Hawker, by the way. She hasn't fought for a while. Let me put her name in BoxRec as we're going. Always have it handy there, because I'm not sure. Let me know if I'm wrong. But I haven't seen. I follow the Ace Boxing page, and she hasn't fought since it's April this year, so it's not the end of the world. She had the 7th round stoppage of Carice Brown. She was pretty average from memory, Kyle. Was Big J taking the piss? She was pretty average, was Carice Brown, but that was Beck Hawker doing the job on her as well. But yeah, Beck Hawker, Sky Nicholson, let's get it done at some stage. That would be a great fight. Andy says, Tim Tszyu versus Brian Mendoza will be lit, no doubt. Bud could very likely chase the winner if Canelo fight doesn't happen. Bud has said he wasn't interested in Jamal after his bad Canelo performance. Don't blame him, Andy. I was really impressed by Bud Crawford. His response, he's like, yeah, you know what? I don't want that fight no more. That fight was embarrassing. I know we all laid the boots. I think everyone out there who's got a YouTube show or a Instagram channel or whatever it might be laid the boots into Jamal Charlo with good reason. He just didn't come to fight. So why does he deserve a fight against Terence Crawford? He needs to come back, and I thought it was really disrespectful, well, pretty cringeworthy to be honest, that after he'd just been beaten badly by Canelo, I think might have won one round if you're being kind to him, that he called out Crawford. And I love the response by Crawford saying, nah, mate, not interested anymore. He's got some other big fights to go after. Jamal, I'll say it again, I think he's got some serious issues, and he needs to sort them out before he comes back and starts demanding fights with Crawford. And again, I'll say it, the biggest issue is not the fact that Jamal Charlo lost. No way. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he lost. Great fighters have lost fights throughout the generations and the decades and the years and everything else. But I cannot get my head around, like a lot of you out there, the fact that he didn't try to win. That I just cannot get my head around. You're at that level, getting paid that amount of money. You're on the biggest stage in the world, and you don't try and win. And that performance will haunt, Jamal Charlo for the rest of his career, and then after his career. I hate to say it, but his legacy is severely tainted after that performance, and that's a shame because he's had some great wins over the journey. He's undisputed 154-pound champion, or was. So it's a real shame, but in the spotlight, you've got to wear it, and he just didn't turn up, unfortunately. BJ, Ali versus Cooper won. The glove broke. Yep, thought that was it. Angelo Dundee helped it. They stretched for new gloves, but there was no gloves. Is that right? Dundee never took them off, and the fight continued. Ali got about 3 minutes off. Yeah, and that's unusual. That it's normally the home fighter that happens to, not the visiting fighter. Although Muhammad Ali, of course, was he Clay then? I think was he Clay or was he Ali? Either way, but something that the visiting fighters don't normally get looked after like that anyway. But yeah, that was a great fight back in the day. Batman says Jai is definitely the best cruiserweight in the world, with an exclamation mark there. Batman, no one comes close if you ask me in the cruiserweights, and he's going to prove it. Dundee Luke says, can't believe Sweet Pea Akuso missed weight. I know his trainer had a heart attack, but this is the second time in 2 fights. Yeah. Well, what was interesting, Luke, is that his manager actually came out and said he was pissed and embarrassed about the whole situation and not professional. So it's not often that you get your own team coming out and giving it to you, but I think we can give him a pass just this time, Luke. If it happens again, I'm with you. But I just think, look, actually what probably would have been the best thing to do is probably a week out when his opponent arrived in Australia, is to go to his team and say, look, I've had a really disrupted preparation. I'm not going to make weight. Let's work out an arrangement. And before we get in to the weigh-in, now maybe there could have been repercussions where the opponent threatened to go home if he didn't get paid all this extra money. I know he got, was it $7,500? I know he might have put his hand out for twice that or 3 times that a week out because he's got a lot more leverage. But yeah, I'm just looking to give Akuso just one more out here, Luke, because yeah, that wouldn't have been ideal. He could have always pulled out, of course, but yeah, I'm willing to give him one more chance at this weight, or at this 175-pound, Luke. And if he doesn't make it again, well, I'm with you. But yeah, just not a good situation at all. Big J, Kyle, not at all, mate. Beck Hawker is the real deal. Yeah, she is. I think so. I'd love to see her fight a little bit better opponents there. Big J, what is she at the moment? 7-0. So she's only just beginning. She's been a pro since 2020, so she's only a baby really in the fight game. I know she's not a baby. She's 32, so I know she's not a baby in that sense. But yeah, I would like to probably see her fight. What has she had? She's only had one fight in the last 12 months, so she probably needs to get a little bit busier. I know she's with Ace Boxing still, and who knows whether she's got injuries or whatever it might be. But I wouldn't mind seeing her maybe get another 4 or 5 fights and then put the call out to Sky Nicholson, because that's going to be a massive fight for Aussie female boxing. Kyle Champion says, I rewatched Fundora versus Mendoza. I could swear Mendoza wasn't looking at half the punches he was throwing, even the left hook that set up the knockout. He wasn't looking at that. I noticed the same thing, Kyle. I was watching that fight myself the other day, and of course, every time you put on Main Event or whatever it is, they've got the knockout on repeat. But I actually thought he was looking at the floor. I'm not sure. Well, I am sure it was some sort of set up punch that he'd been working on in training, but I looked to me like he was looking at the floor when he threw it. And he didn't realise it had sort of connected. He would have felt it, of course. He's looked up, and then you've got Fundora sort of swaying in the breeze, and it was just that big right hand and left hook to send him on his way. But maybe, look, sometimes you get fighters like that, Kyle, that just know what they're capable of and just throw it. They don't need to look. They just throw it, and they know that it's all over. I remember Sergio Martinez against Paul Williams. Wasn't looking at him either. Threw the big right hand straight down the middle, looking at the crowd, I think he was, and he just knew it was. And he just walked to the corner and waved it off. He knew it was over right there and then. So, but the good fighters, that can happen there, Kyle. And he obviously knows what he's got, and he knew that it landed flush, and he knew it was over, and it was just a matter of finishing the job. Hayden Harradine, how are you, mate? Thanks for joining in the show. I'm not sure what that is, a question mark there. Asbot, hope we see that cold, clinical, patient Zoo take Mendoza into deep waters. I think we will, Asbot. I think you'll see that, mate. I think you're going to see a Tim Tszyu. Like, I think, look, looking back to the last 2 fights, I think you looked at the Tony Harrison fight. He gave Tony Harrison a lot of respect, as he should. And then he realised that Harrison didn't really have much to keep him off. And then you seen him pick it up, and you see what happened at the end there. Then I think with Ocampo, I don't think Tim respected Ocampo at all, especially when you've got Tim Tszyu coming at you and you go with your chin up in the air, you go in a straight line backwards. You're just asking for that big overhand right over the top, and that's what happened. And then, of course, the clubbing punches to finish it. But you see someone like Mendoza, Tim, I've got no doubt, will give him the respect he deserves, and you'll see him just take him apart over 9 or 10 rounds, in my opinion. But he better be careful, because Mendoza has iced a lot of guys. He can punch. I just don't think he's got the skills or the speed even to go with Tim Tszyu. And I just think once Tim gets a bit of an idea or gets a bit of a look at him in the first 2 or 3 rounds, gets his range, works out, or has a look at what Mendoza has, and maybe gets a taste of his power. Who knows? I just think you'll see Tim put the foot down and then overpower him as the fight goes on. Kyle says, "Oh mate, Beck needs to tighten up on that guard, but the power is there." Yeah, well, she obviously wore one in the Brown fight. It'll come. She's had pretty much one-sided fights so far, though, Kyle. That's the thing. This is probably her biggest test, even though Brown wasn't, the greatest of opponents. She'd been around. She was, I think she's from America, wasn't it, or USA? I think she'd come over from. So obviously she's got a bit of talent, but I think she'll use this as a bit of a learning curve, Kyle, and you'll see her probably tighten up as the fights come on. But she's only had 7 fights. She's got plenty of time, as I said before, 4 or 5 more fights, and then really start to step it up from there. She has got the IBA title? Not that that's one of the major belts, but so she'll get some opportunities. And Ace Boxing have shown they get behind their fighters, so I've got no doubt that they'll get behind Beck. Batman says, Tim will dominate Mendoza, who will be game and tough and can take some good shots, but he will be outclassed and get a beating. Yeah, I'm with you there, Batman. And I really like Mendoza, I do. I think he speaks really well. He's humble. And what I love about both fighters, by the way, there's been no trash talking. Maybe that might come about a little bit later in the week. But these guys, these are from the old school, these 2 boxers. They prepare, they train hard, they give everything in the training camps, and there's no trash talking. They believe in themselves enough. They don't need to try and pump themselves up and pump the event up. We don't need to pump this up from Tim Tszyu's perspective. It's going to be a massive fight, massive pay-per-views. It'll be, I'm pretty sure it's a sellout already. So, and Tim, sometimes it looks awkward from fighters. If Tim tried to do that, I think it would look awkward. Same as Mendoza. He's a really nice guy, but he's a killer in the ring. There's a difference. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, is that respectful go-between the guys later in the week. That, no indication of what will happen when they get in the ring, though. I think you're going to see 2 absolute killers go for it and lock horns. But I don't think you're going to see a lot of that trash talk leading up to the fight. Way off topic, but does anyone know what become of Benjamin Bomber after the Tszyu loss? Felt sorry for the kid, such a big loss with all the Yank guys around him and the time pumping his head too much. Not sure where he's at the moment, Asbot, but I'm sorry I don't share your sympathy for the kid. I'm a massive believer, and it's been the slogan of my business. If you talk it up, you got to back it up. Now, it's one thing, I know Benjamin Bomber maybe talked it up a little bit to get the fight. I get that. But some of the things he said were a little bit disparaging and disrespectful to Nikita. And I met the kid. He's actually a nice guy, but sometimes you just got to know when to push it and when not to, and especially when you get in the ring. After all that, to get knocked out in 1 round, and whether it should have been stopped is people's opinion. But I did feel also for the coach that came out. I was actually on the same flight as his. We actually came home the day of the fight with Nikita Tszyu, and his trainer was on the same flight the day before, and the flight actually got cancelled. We're sitting on the tarmac. We sat there for 3 hours. They cancelled the flight. It was just sitting up from me. We all had to get off the plane, go back to the hotel, spend the night or overnight, and then 11 o'clock the night after we had to get the flight to Melbourne. He got off the plane, literally had to go to the hotel, get changed, and go to the fight. So I felt sorry for him. That's a little bit off topic, of course. But look, if you surround yourself with all the American posse there, Asbot, and you're pumping yourself up, I don't know why you would need to get a trainer from America. I'm sure there's plenty over here that could have trained you just as good, especially when you go over there for a training camp for, a month or something, come back and your trainer that you've been training with comes over the day of the fight and hasn't seen you in 3 or 4 weeks. Not so sure where that comes from. I think it's good for optics just to have the Americans in your corner. I think they are the Devin Haney crew that come over. But end of the day, mate, as I said, you got to back it up if you talk it up, and he just couldn't do it. And look, I wish him the best. I'm hoping it's a learning curve for him. He's only 21 or whatever it might be, and as I said, he is a good kid. But I hope he would use this as a bit of reason, just to calm the farm a little bit. Maybe at your age, just get 10 or 15 more fights under your belt, then maybe look at stepping up. And in the meantime, I don't begrudge him for wanting that fight, by the way. He thought he could win. His team thought he could win. Unfortunately, didn't work out for him on the night. But he needs to go back to the drawing board, get a little bit more humble, and focus more on his craft rather than yapping it up. So I'm sure he'll come back. He's got a lot of talent. But it's going to be a little bit of a road back for him. He's probably got to eat a little bit of humble pie, if you ask me, because there's nothing worse when you talk it up like he did, and then you get put away in a round. We saw it also with Mark Schliebs when he fought Rocky Ogden as well. I've never seen an Australian fighter talk it up so much in a domestic, domain, unless it's Anthony Mundine, of course. But at least Anthony Mundine got in there and got the result. Unfortunately for poor old Mark Schliebs, he got towed up in a round as well. So, but I'm sure he'll be back, Asbot. Kyle says Mendoza's only hope is to end it early, and he knows it. The longer the fight drags on, the more the fight becomes advantage to Tszyu. Yeah, sort of in theory, Kyle. I think I'm not totally in that school of thought. I'm with you that he needs to probably start fast and maybe get Tim's respect early, maybe rock him early. But a lot of his wins, those knockout wins, have been later in fights. So I don't sort of totally subscribe to it, but I do agree that Mendoza needs to get Tim's respect early and land a big hook or a big uppercut early. Because if he doesn't, Tim's the type of fighter who gets better by the round or each round goes on. And if he doesn't start fast and get a couple of rounds under his belt, I really worry that he's going to be bombed out of there at some stage. Dundee Luke says, any news on Stevie the Viking Spark? I've heard nothing since he was robbed in Mexico against the Venezuelan. No, was that a Venezuelan? I thought it was a Mexican. Either way, he did get robbed, I thought too, Luke. I haven't heard anything. I do follow him on social media, which is normally the best way to find out what's going on, but so far nothing. So, look, I'm sure Matchroom will sort of get behind him a little bit. I'm not sure he's signed up to them at all, but I think he's put on a couple of really good performances with Matchroom, so I'm sure they've got some other fights for him. Guys like Stevie Sparks, always great for promoters like Matchroom because they always come to fight. They'll always fight on short notice. They'll always fight whoever you put them in with. They're a promoter's dream, so I'm sure he'll get opportunities. But to answer your question there, Luke, no, I haven't heard anything yet. Ronnie Picken, hi mate. Thanks for joining in the show. Just looking at Mendoza, I think his strong suit is his uppercut. That usually gets blokes that get their head over the front foot. I don't think Tim Tszyu will give him that luxury. Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. I don't think Tim's going to give him the luxury of being able to set down on his punches, to sort of fight at his own pace. Tim gets you out of your comfort zone. That's what really good fighters do. And I just look back to the two losses that he had, and Fundora was doing really well against him too until he got caught. I just worry that unless he actually lands the big punch, I'm just not sure he can bother Tim in any way whatsoever. So, but we'll see, mate. That's why it's boxing, and we'll see once they get in the ring and who lands first, and whoever wins will be the WBO world champion. Batman, along with his skills and ability, really like Tim's mentality. Just seems super focused, and you can tell he just lives the sport. I'm expecting huge things there. And he's only 28, so he's probably got a good 5 or 6 years left in him, Batman, at the top level, I would think. So I really like the fact he's got the belt now, and more importantly, he's got fights like Crawford and well, maybe Spence, but not so much Charlie. Who knows? Could be Canelo, could be at 160. There's other fights there. So I just think there's so many fights there for Tim if and when he wins this fight. But it's all, you are right about his mentality. He does live for the sport. He's always looking to improve, and he's in it. He's in 100%. And that's it. At this level, you've got to be Batman. And the good thing about Tim is that he's got the best team in boxing behind him, I think, if you ask me. So all that coupled together, I think you'll see him emulate his dad. I really do. Kyle, has Charlo's marketing value plummeted so badly that a fight with Zoo in Vegas is off the table? If so, Tim should fight him at home. Don't give him the advantage in Texas. I don't think the money is here in Australia for that fight, Kyle. Well, look, you never know. They got the money for bringing Pacquiao out here, not that Charlo's Pacquiao. But I would think to get Jamal Charlo out here, if he did want to come out here, he'd be looking at probably $5 to $10 million to set foot in Australia. And can we generate that type of money? I'm not sure we can. I think Pacquiao got $10 million for fighting Horn. But Manny Pacquiao is Manny Pacquiao, isn't it? Look, as I said before, Kyle, I hope I'm wrong. My gut feel is that the fight with Tim and Charlo doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Tim, and I'm glad that, look, if it doesn't happen, I got no doubt, and you would have seen an interview I did with Glenn the other week, that I don't think they're even focused on Charlo at the moment. I think they've got the mindset that, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're going to keep continuing on. There's plenty of other guys out there for us to fight. We're going to win this. Well, they've won the belt. We're going to defend this belt. We're going to unify the belts. If Charlo doesn't come back, if he does come back, we'll unify it with him. But if he doesn't, then we'll unify it against the other fighters. So I just think they're on a trajectory now. And I think even I saw, and I don't keep meaning to bring him up because it aggravates some of you out there, Michael Zarafa saying he still wants the Zoo fight. We're on a collision course. I don't think that's the case at all. I think the only way that fight happens is if Tim Zoo says, yeah, I'll fight him. I don't think it's going to happen by public demand. Tim won't give him the satisfaction of that. I think the only way that fight happens is if Tim just needs that fight at the time. And on that, if you watch my video on Friday with the weekly roundup, Danny Garcia who's supposed to be fighting Erizandi Lara next month or in December. Michael Zarafa is supposed to fight on the undercard, and then the winners will fight each other. Danny Garcia has been mentioned on a card with Keith Thurman and Floyd Mayweather Jr., who will do an exhibition. Now, no mention of Lara versus Garcia. It's just Garcia will fight on the card. Now, the more I just look into it, and the gut feel is I just don't think it's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see the fight happening at this stage with the winner of Garcia and Lara. I don't even really see the Garcia and Lara fight happening at this stage, let alone Michael fighting the winner. Now, it's at a year now since Michael's fought. Now, if he doesn't get the fight at the end of the year, we could be looking at, March to June next year. It could be 18 months in between fights. This is a guy that's 30 years old. And I'll say it again. I know I've gone off topic there, Kyle. Sorry, you did ask me about the Zoo Charlo fight in Vegas. I don't know how I've got onto this. But you're talking about a guy that's 30 years old in his prime, who's given up shots at 2 world titles, could go 18 months without a fight, and there's no guarantees he gets the fight. We've seen all sorts of weird and wonderful things happen with potential fights. It's a business, remember, and all the shenanigans that goes on behind it. And that's why I said watch the Danny Green documentary before. This is in the lead up, with the Bayer fight and the Lucas fight and all the other fights, all the shit that goes on behind the scenes and legal threats and conditions and options and all this sort of stuff. So much goes on. So this is why I've got severe doubts that Michael Zarafa gets a title shot at all. I hope I'm wrong. He deserves his shot, arguably. Give him his shot, but I've still got doubts that Garcia and Lara fight, let alone Michael fighting the winner. Maybe I'll have egg all over my face. It'll get announced tomorrow that the fight's going ahead. But so far, I'm not hearing anything. I've done my best even today on the net, searching for Garcia versus Lara. When is it? And all I'm getting is August 5th, which is when it was supposed to happen. No mention about the rematch. No mention about prospective cards. Now, we're in almost mid-October. That's 8 or 9 weeks away. Not even. Or it's 8 weeks. So if we don't hear anything in the next couple of weeks, well, is the fight happening again? I don't know. I've given up trying to guess, I suppose. I'm at the point now where, hey, until it's announced, then let's not worry about it. But I just worry about the Michael Zarafa situation, which hence is why it was mentioned again over the weekend about the whole zoo collision course thing. Is he saying this just to keep, in the news cycle? I don't know. But, at the moment, there's no mention of Lara versus Garcia anywhere, let alone Michael fighting the winner. So what do you guys think? Did I answer the question there, Kyle? Sorry, I'll read that question again. I sometimes get a bit sidetracked. Has Charlo's value plummeted so bad that fight with Zoo is off the table? It's only off the table because, he's made no indicate or had given no indication yet that he's going to come back to 154 to fight Tim Tszyu. You would have seen after the fight, he was asked about fighting Tim Tszyu. He changed the subject, and all he wanted to talk about was fighting Crawford. So that tells me that Tim Tszyu is not in the future of Jermell Charlo. What might maybe happen is if Tim wins his fight, and then maybe out of the blue, Terence Crawford says, I want to fight this guy. I want to go up to 154. He's going to have the first option of fighting Tim because he's the WBO welterweight champion. He's Crawford. So he can move up as the undisputed champion and get a crack at Tim straight away. Now, if they fought and Tim beat Crawford, well, that's probably the only way you're going to get Charlo wanting to come back to fight Tim Tszyu. But a lot of things a lot of water under the bridge, as they say. But who knows? But as I said, mate, I don't think that we've got the money here. Andy says, Jermell calling out Bud was strictly chasing another payday. Yep, I agree, mate. He went into the Canelo fight, to take that L for the dollars. My respect for him dipped there, to be honest. Yeah. Well, whatever respect I had vanished after that, Andy. How can you go, I've said it 10 times, how can you go in there against the best fighter in the world, arguably the best fighter in the world, or top 2 or 3 anyway, and give that type of performance where you don't try and win? You run, you hold, you jab, you move for 12 rounds and hope not to get knocked out. Especially, as I said before, you're talking it up, Jermell. You've got your opportunity. All the years of saying you could beat him and everything else. Well, now they're still talking about Jermell getting revenge, which I know was the storyline they were hoping to go. But geez, there's no way they can sell that fight, surely. Surely they cannot sell a Jermell Charlo fight. Still with Andy. Won't be surprised if Jermell versus Lubin 2 happens, honestly, if he doesn't campaign at middleweight. Well, Lubin's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing fight Tim Tszyu. I think that'd be a pretty good fight for Tim, Andy, if after this week's fight. I think if Tim gets through, I'd like to see him fight Lubin. I'm not sure where he's ranked. Was that the WBC silver title or interim title or whatever it was? No, it can't be interim because Mendoza's got that. It might be the silver title, whatever it might be. But I know too, I did see that Suleiman, who's the WBC president, said that he would have liked this weekend's fight to be for a version of the WBC title. Now, he just wanted his sanctioning money. That's all he wanted. But so, yeah, who knows there, mate. But, I think Lubin could be possibly next for Tim Tszyu after this fight if you're talking about gut feels. Batman says Mendoza will definitely be in deep waters and most likely getting drowned. Yeah, I agree there, mate. Glenn, how are you, mate? Thanks for joining in the show. I can actually see Spence versus Lubin happening. Okay. The WBC PBC connection is strong to say the least, and to give Spence a belt and a start at 154. Now, where are we at with Spence and Crawford? The last I saw it was that Crawford said, you can have your rematch, but as per our contract, I decide the weight, and I'm going to decide this at 147. And I know Spence and other critics have come out and said, you will fight Canelo at 168, but you won't fight Spence at 154. Well, he doesn't have to. He's the A side. He won. As per contract, he has the full right of the weight division, and he said he wants to fight at 147. So can't begrudge him for that. So I don't know what's happened since then. Maybe Spence will say, I don't want the rematch now. I might, as you said there, might go up and fight Lubin for the WBC silver belt. So, mate, a lot of balls in the air. But again, as I said, until these fights are actually, signed, sealed, and delivered, I don't sort of speculate anymore because there's so much happening. We thought we're going to get Tim Tszyu and Charlo, and then bang, out of the blue comes Canelo and Charlo. That's how it can happen. I'm sure there's a lot of negotiations going on behind closed doors out there. But yeah, until it actually happens, well, I suppose we're all out here guessing, aren't we? Batman says the pressure The pressure IQ, timing, technique, and speed will make this a terrible night for Mendoza. Tim, who is about to show that he's levels above Mendoza and all his opponents. Yes, I'm with you there, mate. And he says, should have said earlier, but congrats to Jai for the win over Thompson. Hope to see the cruiserweight unification ASAP. Yeah, definitely, mate. What a performance he put on. It was just amazing. Let's hope he's not out the ring for too long this time either. I know they had the jaw and other circumstances. I'd love to see him fight within the next sort of 3 or 4 months. It'd be great. Glenn says, can't help thinking that's why he got the questionable decision over Ramos. This is about Lubin. Yeah, well, sometimes with there's smoke, there's fire, Glenn. That's for sure, mate. Andy says, yes, congratulations to Ramirez. Bad luck, Joe Smith. Was an entertaining fight in your opinion. Both wore some solid shots. Well, yeah, well, they're talking about maybe Ramirez stepping up to fight Jai at cruiserweight. Of course, he fought Bivol at light heavyweight, but this was at cruiserweight, I'm pretty sure. Or was it? Or was it... maybe I'm wrong there. Hang on. Am I wrong? I thought it was at cruiserweight. No, I can't find him. There's too many Joe Smiths out there. I won't attempt to find him. But if I'm wrong, let me know. But yeah, there is talk that Ramirez might now challenge Jai Patai, which I think would be a great fight. I think Jai tears him apart. But good reputation as Ramirez. He's tough. He's hard. Experienced. Got the credentials, of course. That'll be a pretty good fight. Andy says, very plausible scenario for Spence Lubin. Spence did say he was going up to super welterweight and that Lubin fight is a perfect entrance there, in your opinion. Yeah, does sort of make sense a little bit, doesn't it? Oh, I mean, even Spence and Tim makes a little bit of sense, although obviously it'd be great for Spence to get a win under his belt first if the Crawford fight doesn't happen. And, of course, the Lubin fight makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Asbot, one thing's for sure, Tim's definitely won the respect war over Charlo. Yeah, he has, mate. I think Charlo has lost all sorts of respect after that fight against Charlo. So many people just giving it to him, aren't they? Sorry, guys. I'm just looking at to bring up the schedule for this weekend's fight that we'll have a chat about in a sec. I'll just bring up and we'll have a look at it after a few comments. All right. Big J, all right. Here's an interesting one. This always makes me worried there, Big J. Top 10 fights that never happened. I have a book on that, but Australian. So, is there another comment there? Where is it? Fennick versus Alice. Gill versus Solomon. Mundine versus Bika. Zoo versus Arafa. Rose versus Famishon, etc. I'm not sure. Did I do a video about that? I'm not sure I did. Love it, though, Big J. I will put that on a list. Actually, a video I've got coming out, hopefully it will be this week. This is on top of watching the Danny Green videos over the weekend. I'm going to do the biggest travesties of all time featuring Australian boxers. Now, travesty, controversies, whatever you want, rorts, whatever you want to call it. The top 5 biggest rorts of an Australian boxer of all time. And there's been a few out there. I'm sure you can think of a few. But I was watching that Danny Green and Bayer fight, or the whole documentary about it, and it got me thinking. We've been involved in a few over the years. I know there's probably a shitload out there, but I'm going to get my top 5. We'll see if there's like 10, but there's at least top 5 off the top of my head that are the biggest rorts of an Australian boxer of all time. They all happen overseas, which is always the case. But can you guess which 5 I'm looking at? But that's a good idea, though, Big J. I'm going to put that on the list to do a video of that. Well, give me some suggestions, but you're right. Fennick, Ellis, Gill, Solomon. Did Gill Solomon happen? No, it didn't, did it? Mundine, Bika, Zeus, Rafa. I would have loved to have seen Green, Briggs, when Briggs was actually at his peak, not the shell of Paul Briggs that we saw later on that lasted, a minute with Danny Green and then took a knee. Great to see he's got himself together, by the way, because he was a great fighter back in the day. But that would have been a good fight. Yeah, that's a really good idea there, Big J. Give me what you got there. Now, out of all those, I would say, I think we did a dream fight on Jeff Fennick and Lester Ellis, and did I pick Jeff? I think I did. Not with a lot of confidence, though, because it's super featherweight or junior lightweight, 130. I think Lester Ellis would have given Jeff Fennick all he could handle. I know Jeff went on a lot bigger things than what Lester Ellis did, but back in the day when Lester was in his early to mid-20s at 130, he was an animal. So much skill did Lester Ellis have, and I thought that would have been a hell of a fight. And I think I would just give the nod to Jeff by strength and his work rate. As you saw what Barry Michael did to Lester, just wore him down, kept him close, didn't give him the leverage to let go of those big left hooks and body shots that he was famous for. Gill and Solomon, I think Gill wins that easily every day of the week. Mundine and Bicker, gee, it's an interesting one. I'm going to go with Mundine, Big J in that one. Zoo versus Rafa, Zoo, of course. Rose Famishon. I think we did a dream fight on that one as well. I'm probably going to contradict myself, but I'd probably go for Johnny Famishon in that one. I think. All right, let me know if I'm wrong. Who's your opinions? Kyle says, is there any update on Ebony Bridges? Hasn't fought since last year. Yeah, it's probably, I think it was December last year she beat Shannon O'Connell. She should be looking at Nina Hughes with a title. 41 with a title. All I did see about her, Kyle, was that she obviously had the injury. And I'm pretty sure she was looking at maybe early next year because it was a pretty severe injury. You remember her hand was the size of a balloon. But that's just look again. I don't really follow her on social media. I've got to rely on the boxing sites and all that sort of stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of Ebony Bridges, but that's the only thing I've got, Kyle. I do respect her, by the way, as a world champion. You know, all respect to her for that. But yeah, she did have the hand injury. But the last time I did see Kyle, I think it was maybe looking at early next year from what I saw. Minnesota Mick, hi mate. Danny Garcia isn't fighting Lara next. Yes, well that's what I thought, Mick. Fill us in there, unless you have later on down in the chat. That's what I thought. There has been no mention of Garcia fighting Lara, let alone Michael Zarafa fighting the winner. So as I said before, Mick, and you're obviously in the know, so much goes on behind the scenes and all these things, and the fact there's not even smoke, let alone a fire, about this fight happening. So I'm not sure what is going on where, but as I said before, I'll believe it when I see it, that Michael Zarafa fights the winner of this, let alone these two fighting each other. So let's wait and see on that one. Big J. Ebony announced coming soon fight before the end of the year. Oh, there you go. Just disregard what I said. Big J will know. But yeah, as far as I knew, it was early next year, Big J, but all good. Unknown Samoan, hi mate, good evening to you as well. Thanks for joining in. Kyle says, cheers, old mate Big J. If she hurries, she could make the Katie Taylor 2 undercard. Yeah. From what I've seen a little bit of her training, Kyle, I'm not quite sure she's in that sort of nick just yet. I know she does cut weight very close to the fight, but yeah, I'm not quite sure she'll be ready to go for that. Kyle, when is that fight, by the way? Is it next month, I think? I should know that. I saw the poster for the other day. But anyway, Adam Kelly, hi, mate. Good evening. As I've said before, this Mendoza fella is going to scare a lot of people. This fight goes very close to the distance. Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me. Let's hope it is that way. I mean, the better fights that Tim gets, the better it will be for his career. Now, obviously, we don't want any scares like we got in the Gorche fight, but I think we're going to get it, by the way. There will be no pushover by any means, but I hope he gives Tim a really, really good fight. I really do. I hope he gives Tim something to think about. Of course, Tim wins the fight. But I think for the future of Tim's career, he needs fights like this. And apart from Charlo, I think this is the biggest fight for him at 154. So he can't really do any more than what he's doing. And Minnesota Mick says, what's up, y'all? We're all doing good here, Minnesota Mick. You folks got Zoo versus Mendoza this weekend. You're all getting some fights down there. Yeah, we are getting a few. Hopefully that George Kambosos and Vasily Lomachenko is in Australia early next year. As I said, there are a few things getting around, but I can't disclose my information, let alone my sources, but I'll let you know as soon as I can. But pretty exciting about what might be happening with George Kambosos and that Lomachenko fight. Jason Maloney, of course, could be some big news with him dropping soon as well. So I'll keep you informed about that as well. But some big things happening in Australia, Mick, and I'm glad that you guys y'all over in the USA are starting to take notice of the Aussies. I think Tim Tszyu would beat Crawford. Honestly, wow. Talk about a bold statement there, Batman. Yeah, well, you know what we all think about Tim down this way, Batman, but that's really yeah, that's going to stir the hornet's nest. I think that one. What do you guys think? Can Tim beat Terence Crawford? I'd love to see the fight take place, and I'll reserve judgment to see how I see Tim fight this weekend because I've got no doubt this is his biggest test by far. Bill Hack, how are you, mate? I think if the last Rafa versus Tim fight happened, I truly believe Michael would have won. Wow, talk about bold statements. But since them days, Tim's grown and blows Michael away in 7 rounds. Yeah. Look, and Tim's been active, Bill. Michael hasn't. He's had 4 fights in 4 years. And one of those fights was the Anthony Mundine blowout in 90 seconds, which you could not even call a fight. He would have had sparring sessions that would have been a lot harder than that. So I disregard that. Then he fought the Fijian after that. I promoted that Fijian against Emmanuel Carlos, and Emmanuel Carlos wiped him out in 3 rounds. So I discount that one as well. Isaac Hardman, full respect for Michael for that fight, but again, it was 2 rounds. And then, of course, he had the 10-round fight with Creati. Again, he's had sparring sessions, probably had shadow boxing sessions that were harder than that fight. So I do feel for Michael. It's not his fault in those respects that he got. I mean, full credit for blowing away Isaac Hardman in 2 rounds. He took the Fijian just to get a fight in. The Anthony Mundine fight, I don't probably give him a get out of jail card for that one because they would have known that Anthony Mundine was absolutely shot to pieces and shouldn't have been in that ring. And the Creative fight, I think No Limit would have said, hey, we want to put you on, and don't begrudge Michael for wanting a TV fight, but Creative would have said, look, we've got a guy that's capable, give him a good fight. It wasn't really his fault that he ran away for 10 rounds and refused to engage. But that's the concern, Bill, is that Tim's been very active against very good fighters. So Rafa has had 4 fights in 4 years and continuing on after this. He hasn't got a fight locked in at this stage. So who knows when his next fight is. So it's just not active enough. And that's what I said earlier. He's 30 years old. These are his peak years. And to have 4 fights in 4 years, it's just not enough. Not enough. So, look, again, it might come back and I'll have egg on my face that next week it's announced that he's fighting whoever for whatever belt in January. Well, that's great. I hope I'm wrong. But from what I can see at this stage, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there, Bill. That I think Tim wins that fight quite comfortably, and I don't think the fight happens because Tim simply moved on. That's just the way it goes. Batman. I think Lubin will most likely get the Zoo fight. Decent name for Tim to take. Yep, I agree there, mate. James, this is the controversies or the rorts. Hussein and Pacquiao. Yeah, that's definitely one of them. If not number one, James. I haven't decided which is number one yet. But look, we've got plenty of those over the years. But Hussein and Pacquiao, you would have to say, is a red hot favourite to be the number one Australian travesty of all time, James. Still can't believe they let them get away with that. Fenwick Nelson 1, yep. Maloney versus Franco 2. Green versus Bayer. Geez, you've almost picked them already there, guys. I might have to not do the video on it. But, yeah, all those fights. Of course, Liam Wilson, Navarrete is probably another one. What was the other one? There's a couple I was thinking of as well. But they're all of them. Which is the biggest one, guys? You're probably right there, James. It might be Hussey and Pacquiao, but Fenwick Nelson 1, massive. I think Maloney, Franco 2. I think Fenwick and Nelson, I think probably would rate behind Maloney and Franco. That's a massive rort. Andrew Maloney clearly should have been announced the winner in that fight. It was clear as day that it was a punch, not a thumb, that caused the eye. They spent half an hour trying to look at vision, and they still couldn't find it. So, and they still made it a technical draw or a no contest, whatever it was. So, yeah, not happy. And Green and Bayer, well, again, I watched the documentary that on the weekend. Danny knocked him down in rounds 1 and 2, 1 round 3 and 4, and in the 5th, had him on toast, of course, careless with the headbutt, should never have done it. I know he said it was unintentional, but it was careless, no matter how you look at it. And the referee took 2 points away for what was deemed as an accidental head clash, or even if it was delivered with 2 points. And then they called the fight off. And if it had gone to the scorecards, would have been happy days. He still would have been a mile in front, even with the 2 points taken off in 5 rounds. But they had the opportunity to disqualify Danny, and they took it. Talk about rorts. In my opinion, Fenech was never the same against Nelson. Danny Green was never the same after the Bayer fight. I know he had the win over Luca after that, which was a great performance as well, but was just never the same, especially the second Bayer fight where he lost on points. And, as I said, he should have went up in weight after that. But that's, anyway, watch the documentary. It's in the chat there. It's really, really good. Ellis versus Fenech almost happened in 96. Yeah, there was talk about it, Big J. I know that you talk to Leicester's crew, they say that Fenech pulled out. If you talk to Fenech and his crew, they say that Ellis pulled out. But what a fight that would have been. Oh, I think 96 way too late. I'm probably thinking more like, 80. Well, what year did Jeff go up in weight? Of course, Leicester went up as well. But he won the world title in 85 at 130. That's the thing. Jeff didn't actually hit 130 himself until 6 years after that in 91. And at that point, Leicester was pretty much finished, I think. So, look, timing's everything. But, geez, the late 80s, what a fight that would have been at 130. Oh, would have been an unbelievable fight. I know there was talk about Barry Michael even fighting Jeff Fenech at one stage as well. So, geez, it would have been some great fights out. That just, unfortunately, just didn't happen. But I'm going to do that, Big J. Let's do keep them coming with the suggestions there, and we'll do a video on that, the top 10 Aussie fights that never happened, and predictions. It's actually going to be Hurtado 2.0 this fight. Which that was he the Pommy guy that fought Tim Tszyu, Adam? Maybe I'm wrong. Zerdo would get destroyed by Jai. I think Jai would destroy everyone, to be honest, Batman. Andy says, I was so hoping Danny beat Bayer and Chock beat Odke, and we had unification clash between Danny and Chock. Sadly, wasn't to be, but the rivalry in first fight was still awesome, in my opinion, yeah. I actually did a video, I haven't finished it yet, on the weekend of Green Mundine 2, of What's Your Verdict? The first one, obviously, was clear-cut for Anthony Mundine, but watch the second fight. I was actually interested. I was there live, and it's the first time I've actually watched it back, and it was really interesting to watch it back to see what it looked like on film or on video compared to live, and it was really interesting, that my final view. So make sure it should be out this week as well. What did you think? Green Mundine 2, that was the one in Adelaide. It would have been awesome though, Andy, if that had happened. Of course, Danny got beaten by Bayer, or disqualified, and Otke knocked out Chock. They did fight, 5 years later? No, because Danny and Bayer was that 2003 was the first one. Was it 2005 was the second one? And Otke and Chock was 2003 as well, was it? Long time ago. Anyway, it would have been great, Andy. Kyle says, Katie Taylor fight November 25th. Yeah, thought it might have been then. Hoping Sky can make the undercard, as she should be making an announcement soon. I hope it's Raven Chapman. Check her out. She's a UK girl, tough as. Are they going to match up Sky with tough girls at the moment, Kyle? I'm not quite sure yet. I think they're carefully matching her to maybe get the Serrano fight. I haven't seen Raven Chapman, but I will check her out now you've said that, Kyle. But one thing I'd be very surprised is they put her in with a really tough English girl on an English show. And is it just me? I actually heard Sky talking the other day. Is it just me? Is she starting to get a little bit of an English accent going there? Is she just playing the game with the English fans over there, where she's starting to sound English? Because Ebony Bridges certainly doesn't. She certainly doesn't sound Pommy at all, and she's probably been there longer than what Sky has. So, who knows? But I will check out Raven Chapman there, Kyle. Andy says, Mendoza certainly no slouch. That Fedora KO is a highlight reel KO, no doubt. The style matchup will be lit. Yes, I agree. Unknown Samoan says, Batman, that's a Joker statement, bro. Respectfully, Tim versus Crawford. So, yeah, he doesn't agree that Tim beats Crawford. That's fine. Batman says, I think Tszyu definitely beats everyone. Crawford has that, and the fact... what's that? I think Tszyu definitely beats everyone that Crawford has. And the fact that Crawford is 36 moving up from 130, I think Tszyu and his team would be quietly confident given the opportunity. Yeah, well, I know, given that would be a fact, I would take that fight with open arms. Yeah, Batman, because one thing about Tim that I love as well, he'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, which is what the great fighters do. Danny shook the shit out of Bayer in the first before disqualification. Yep, total domination. Even the referee said, mate, you had him. Why did you do what you did? Just gave him an excuse to disqualify him. And Danny let the referee then have it too, which is quite funny. Props to Bayer, though. He did his homework and didn't take Danny lightly in rematch, but you got to KO those champs on the home soil for that W regardless. What was interesting about that fight, Andy, if you watch the documentary, is that they went to purse bids for that fight. And there was a $35,000 discrepancy. That was it, from the fight being in Australia or being in Germany. And of course, I'm not quite sure you know what the other's going to bid. But these are bids over $2 million. But it got down to $35,000 difference. That's all they had to make to get that fight in Australia. And I got no doubt, as well as Bayer fought in the rematch, and good luck to him. He deserved the win in the rematch. I think if the fight had been in Australia, Danny wins that fight. But we'll never know. But 35,000, that's all it was the difference between being in Germany to Australia. So, yeah, it's crazy what happens in these boxing negotiations. Oh, sorry, he thought Costa. That's what I thought. Who was the guy that Tim fought in 2019? He was the Pommy guy. Yeah, and Hurtado fought Costa in the US. Yeah, what year was that? Yeah. Anyway, we'll watch. What do we got there? Watch, Batman says, watch back the Avanesian fight, the way he pushed back Crawford and landed early and often, and told me Zooey's levels and levels above. And however you pronounce it, I'm hopeless with these names. Can fight in that pressure style. Yep. 20 more times talented and skilled. Yep. Mundine should have gone to Mundine. Not quite sure what that one means there, mate. We'll move on. Andy, Chock deserved the 90 rematch too. Yep. I walked away stunned after the fight, even though I was on the tips. It was a good fight card. I remember Tim Zoo was on the card. Both Maloney's were on the card. Can't remember who else was on there. I think they had some rugby guys on there as well. It was a good fight night, I remember. Costa Zoo, TKO 6, Shannon Taylor on the Lovemore Nadu. Yes. What was that one there, James? Fill me in on that, mate. Hurtado was first on list for Costa. That's right, yeah. On his undisputed run in the 3-belt era. Yep, yeah. Sorry, I was getting confused with the Pommy guy that fought Tim in 2019. Right, well, I've got a little bit of a break there. Let's go to the schedule for this week. Let's go have a look at the card. I'll bring you guys in here. There we go. All right, so the first fight on the card. What do we got? We got Tuasi Vusuatu. I cannot pronounce these names. I'm sorry. Fighting Julius Long. Now, I've promoted Julius Long back in 2015. It was on my first ever promotion. I brought him to Australia. I didn't know anything about him. I brought him in to fight Justin Whitehead. Not a great decision on my end, because Justin was the hometown fighter in Bendigo. Didn't know anything about Julius Long. Hadn't been sort of back in the game for long. Brought him over, and not a good matchup for Justin Whitehead at all. So he gave Justin a bit of a touch up in front of his hometown. But look, he's big, he's tough, he's durable. He has fought Lucas Brown a couple of times as well. Based in New Zealand, I think he's about 7'3" or something. He's a big dude. What did he? I'm not quite sure what he weighed there. I'll have a look in a sec. But Tuasi Vusuatu, that'll be a good fight for him. I know he lost his last fight, but that'll be a really good backup for him. Julius will come and he'll be durable, but I don't think there's any hope or chance of beating Vusuatu. Is that now? Vusuatu. But it should be a good way to kick off the card. Chanel, Dargan, Amber, Amelia. I'm really looking forward to that fight. Chanel Dargan, 2-1-2. But all 5 fights have been absolute wars. She's fighting Amber Amelia, who's 3-1. That'll be a great fight between the girls. Hassan Hamdan, 6-0, fighting Danvers Kushieri, who's 3-1. I don't know anything about Kushieri, so I can't comment on that one. Oh, sorry, my tip for Dargan Amelia is probably Amelia on points by that one. On that one, by the way. You would think that Hassan Hamdan, being sort of the quote-unquote house fighter, will beat Danvers Kushieri. Nathaniel May, Jackson John England. Now, that will be a ripper fight. Now, for me, if Nathaniel May turns up and looks anything like he did 3 or 4 years ago, I think he wins that fight quite comfortably. But he has had his issues in the past. Hasn't fought for a while. I might just actually look at his record there. So you can see there, he did fight in May last year, but it was a second round stoppage of Rivo Rungkung, who had a 37-31 record. So you really can't take too much out of that. Before that was the 2 losses to Bruno Tarimo and James Dickens. So, yeah, look, I'm not sure. Is it what weight is it being fought at there? It doesn't actually say. Oh, super feather, so 130. Well, that's probably a good weight for Nathaniel May. So IBF Australasian super featherweight title. Should be a ripper fight, though. Of course, Jackson John England had the loss to Paul Fleming as well. Was it last year or early this year, whenever it was? So that will be a ripper fight. Looking forward to the Sergey Vorobev and Wade Ryan fight. Now, I'm looking forward to that one because I don't know anything about Vorobev. I did look him up on YouTube, and I wasn't overly impressed with what I seen in that. So I'm not quite sure the relevance of him being on this card, unless he's moved to Australia and is linked up with No Limit. I don't know. Wade Ryan, 21-11. What was it? What I say? Vorobev was 19-1. Wade Ryan, always a great fighter to put him in with, because he always comes to fight, tough, durable, and will always pretty much go the distance. So yeah, as I said, I haven't got high hopes for the standard of the fight, but it should be entertaining anyway. And then we get to the top end of the card. Sam Goodman, 15-0 against Miguel Flores, 25-4-1. Sam Goodman on a bit of a tear at the moment, world ranked. You can see there, Flores hasn't fought since September last year, so he's been out for a year. He had the draw with Abner Mares in LA, and before that, hasn't been overly active at all. It was 15 months before that. So this guy has only fought, this is his second fight in 2 years and 4 months. So it's a long time out. That one fight in, 27 months, one fight. So it's a fair bit of time, or 27, 28 months, whatever it is. So it's a fair bit of time to be out of the ring, but I think a good fight for Sam Goodman because, look, obviously he's got a really good resume there. He'll give Sam Goodman a really good fight. I think the odds are this will go 12 rounds. Sam's not a real big puncher. So I think Flores has been brought out to give Sam the round and someone that's experienced to give him more to his repertoire. So I think it's a good fight, even though he's been really inactive. And I think Sam Goodman wins a 12-round decision there. And then we get to the big one, Tim Tszyu, Brian Mendoza for the WBO World Super Welterweight title. You can see there, supervisor Danny Lee. He'll be loving it up there on the stage with Tim and Brian. But as I said in my prediction earlier, I think Tim Tszyu wins that fight. I think he breaks Brian Mendoza down. I think he has a real good look at him for 2 or 3 rounds. And then as the fight goes on, gets his confidence up, gets his range, his timing, and I think he stops Brian Mendoza in 10 rounds. So that's my prediction on that card there, guys. What have we got there? A couple of more comments there. Hasbot says, sorry, Mundine Green I should have gone to Mundine. Yep. Tend to agree there, mate. Kyle says they need to match Sky up with a challenge. She hasn't really had one yet, Kyle, unfortunately. She's danced around 3 former champions and lost 1 round in 8 fights. She's better than we think. Still forward yet ahead of most. Oh, look, I'm on both sides of the camp, Kyle. One, she hasn't been tested at all. She needs to step up and start fighting some quality girls. But on the other hand, I think she's more than capable of beating those girls and winning a world title. So I'm not having a go at Sky Nicholson at all. I think she's 100% capable of winning a world title, but I want to see her start to step up. It's one thing to be fighting those types of girls, but I don't like it when they almost say, well, hey, look at me, look how great I'm going, and I'm doing this, and I'm going to do that, when they haven't fought anyone of note. So it's not that she's been doing that, by the way. So I think she's been quite humble, but I just would hope that they start to step Sky up and she can fight. I would love to see her fight Amanda Serrano, by the way. More likely to fight Beck Hawker down the track, but I would love to see her fight Amanda Serrano. Whether she wins that or not is irrelevant because she's testing herself against the best in the world. But as I said, Kyle, I think she's more than capable of winning a world title if and when she gets the opportunity. James Daly says, Shannon Taylor, Lovemore, and Nadu both called out Tszyu. Maybe should have fought each other. Did they fight each other? I know Shannon and Tszyu fought each other in the amateur. Shannon and Costa Tszyu fought each other in the amateurs. Shannon gave him a really good fight. That would have been a really good fight. Lovemore Nadu, he obviously based himself over here as well. I'm just going to type in Oh, we're going next. I've got a question from Andy. Any news on Justice Honey? Yeah, well, he's got the fight with Andrew Tabiti and Andy on October the 28th, so this month. I did speak again to Mick Francis about that the other day. They're heading over to Cancun. Not bad, is it? Go to London or Manchester, was it, for that fight? No, it was London, wasn't it? It was Wembley. And now going to Cancun in Mexico to fight Andrew Tabiti. That's a tough fight for Andrew against Andrew Tabiti, by the way. 20-1, and the only loss was to Junior Dordicos for the IBF world title back in 2015. So that's a really tough fight for Justice Honey. So unless something has happened in the meantime, Andy, I only spoke to him about 3 or 4 days ago, and they reckon he's on track in that one. But yeah, Andrew Tabiti will be a very, very tough fighter for Justice Honey. Another one from Andy. Wonder what has become of Dempsey McKean after a Grovic loss. I think he'll just ponder that one for a while, Andy. I think it's a bit of a reality check for Dempsey about where he's at. I think a big, strong heavyweight will still always be in need in England for some of the big fight cards I have on over there. He's obviously in with Matchroom. So I think I think he'll come back, but I just think it's a reminder that he's probably not quite at the level yet. And Grovic, there's talk that he might fight Anthony Joshua for the IBF belt, a vacant belt, if it gets stripped from Usyk. I don't know why they would strip Usyk, but there is word that they were talking about that if he fights Tyson Fury. Now on that one as well, Fury, Usyk, apparently it's going to be December 23rd, but he's fighting Ngannou, this month? 25th of this month or 28th of this month? So he's got an 8-week turnaround. And this is a guy that doesn't fight often at all. So I'm still not convinced the Usyk and Fury fight will happen at that stage, unless it's been signed, sealed, and delivered yet. I don't think it has. Just verbal confirmation, but I'm not quite sure. But that's just changing the subject on Hrgovic, that he might fight Joshua next, but we'll see. But for Dempsey McKean, Andy, I think they'll just reset, reboot, and go again. I mean, he's only youngish for a heavyweight, so he's got plenty of time. Well, enough time anyway to come back, and worst case, plenty of paydays for him to be the opponent if he's not quite up to world title level. You just never know. And what seems to be the case in the heavyweight division, or any division that is, you've just got to be in the right place at the right time. Look at Robert Helenius. He got destroyed by Wilder, came back, fought Joshua, got destroyed again, but he would have walked away with a couple of $1 million in his pocket. You just don't know when the big fights are going to happen, especially at heavyweight. So I'm sure he'll get some bigger fights. He'll get another crack at it, Andy. And as I said, worst case, just be the opponent. Big money in that. Opataya in Fury's camp emulating Usyk. Is that right? I didn't know that, James. There you go. That's good. That'll be great for Jai Opataya, won't it? That's awesome. Rowan B. Hi, mate. Hey, Lynden, have you heard the rumours about Showtime Sport coming to an end? Hope it's not true for boxing. I have heard the rumours, Rowan, but I did see that it is just rumours at this stage. There were other rumours that PBC were in talks with another streamer, whether it be DAZN or who was it they were talking to? I can't remember who it was, but there was talk they were talking to another streaming service. But let's hope not. It was bad enough losing HBO, Rowan, let alone losing Showtime, because they're the only ones out there, I think, that are doing anything of note on the on the broadcast circuit. I think all the others just cut corners. It's all second-rate production. I've been vocal about that on here before. So let's hope they don't give it away. Right? Isn't that just a travesty though, or a shame that we might lose, the second of a major boxing broadcaster? As I said, it was bad enough with HBO, let alone losing Showtime, because we're stuck with DAZN. Top Rank, I think, do it all right with the ESPN and everything else, but they're not the massive shows. So yeah, don't know, but I have heard the rumours there, Rowan. Let's hope it's not true. All right, guys. Well, that is about it for this week's show. Apologies for cutting it. We're about a minute short, so not too bad. But make sure you check out my video this week, as I said, on the biggest travesties of all time. A little bit of story behind them. The Watch Your Verdict with Mundine Green 2. The weekly roundup, which will be out on Friday as usual, and whatever else I can think up as well. But keep the suggestions coming. I really like getting some ideas from you. And Big J, I definitely will do the biggest Australian fights, never to happen because there's quite a few. So, sorry, before I go, James, 100% right, man. I couldn't remember what streaming service it was. It was Amazon Prime that PBC were in talks with to replace Showtime. So, Amazon Prime getting involved in boxing, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? But no different to, I suppose, Stan Sport getting involved in Australia. So let's see what happens. But again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you keep a lookout for the videos. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff. And we'll look forward to catching you next week on Talking Boxing. We'll see you then.